Call the Committee of the Whole for May the 23rd to order. And before we begin, Dr. Buchan, are you able to hear what's going on?
Yes, Your Worship, very well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Begin with an adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Skelton-Morvan, Councillor Nish. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Just for the sake of people at home and people in the gallery, we will have a brief committee of the whole meeting with a presentation, and then we will move into the regular council meeting, and there will be time for public comment at that time. With that, there's a single item on the agenda, and that is Mr. Sean Carlson. Sean, why don't you come on forward? I think you're familiar with the operations here, but sit down, turn your microphone on.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Bring that microphone a little bit more towards you. Super, thank you.
No worries. Let me just get the IT going here so that Dr. Buchan can see and so everyone else can see as well.
It's quite all right.
Well, thank you for having Cane Trails here this evening. We're happy to be here and be presenting an update on sort of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years. And so just to jump in here, I'd like to give a land acknowledgement that the Cane Island Trail Network, the work that we're doing, and also where this meeting is being hosted is on the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian First Nation. So it's very important to us because as folks who want to bring a connection to the land, we also need to recognize where that connection comes from. So just to kind of recap about Cane Trails, I think most everyone is familiar with who we are and what we do, but to kind of give a little bit of a history, we started in 2017 with Rushbrook Trail, and this was a big project for us, $1 million to rehab Rushbrook, a vital connection between Cow Bay and that area to Seal Cove, and now with all the other stuff going on, it's been a great community asset. So as you can see in that one picture, just how rough it was before, and now it's become sort of very walkable and very user friendly. And then it's just been a huge testament to being able to work together with our community, work together with others, work together with local partners, and to sort of see that trail become what it is today, and been a great way to engage with others in an outdoor setting. And as well, when I say that, others being the city, with industry, with the province, and with sort of the local nations. And this all sort of prompted us at the time to, talk about what does trails and outdoor recreation and connectivity really mean in terms of, multi-use pathway, or getting people to be able to access those areas. So we developed our master plan. We had support with Urban Systems to do this, who helped draft it. So it was done professionally and, sort of as a working document. And from there, we used that to really, set the framework and the way we approached trails and outdoor recreation. And what we've been doing over the last 5 years now has been moving forward with one of those trails that's outlined in that plan, which is what we call the Cloudberry Trail. So it's been sort of a long journey to get here, but we've raised $2.1 million. As most of you know, building in Prince Rupert is not cheap, and so that's a very, a small fraction of what is needed to sort of develop the trail network, but it's giving us a good start. So for that first phase, we've secured a contractor to do a design build. So this means they're going to do the design, planning, and then construction of the section that will connect from the Civic Center to about Prince George Street. And then we have a second phase for design and permitting only that we're just beginning. And so both those projects came through federal and provincial funding to the tune of $1.6 million. So that makes up a portion of that 2.1. The rest is a $500,000 commitment from PRPA through their Community Investment Fund. And that is contingent on getting some additional match funding for the remainder. So what is Cloudberry? Does everyone know what the Cloudberry Trail is or where it goes? So this will be a multi-use pathway. So this isn't. This is to a higher or different standard than what we built Rushbrook. We want to make trails and access to the outdoors accessible. This means bike friendly, mobilities friendly. So individuals with unique mobilities, wheelchairs, and that type of thing. It's not intended yet to be a paved pathway just because of the cost, but to be a hard surface and something that can give people the confidence to access outdoor recreation. And we see it as a vital link to connect with existing facilities like Tall Trees and Butsy, Oliver Lake, even to create an active transportation network out to Ridley Island. So to be able to get people who may want to cycle or commute eventually out to Ridley, how can they do that without being on the road? Well, eventually, hopefully this trail can be that. And then get out to Galloway Rapids, where the District of Port Ed is themselves planning a waterfront pathway and park in that area. So it creates this access to existing and then future destinations that would be both good for the community and then good for visitors or tourists coming to our community. And so, like I mentioned, the first phase of Cloudberry, we have $1 million of secured funding. We secured a design build contractor through a competitive RFP process. We had 2 bidders, and the successful bidder was Access Mountain out of Terrace, and then they've retained an engineering and environmental firm to help with the design and permitting. So this is just a schematic of the section that would go from the Civic Center up to the existing Wantage Road intersection and then start along the highway. So this will, again, provide a connection to existing trails through McClymont, the Recreation Center, and those types of features. The other aspect of Cloudberry, as many of you have probably heard of what the Mountain Biking Society is doing. So with their eventual pump track that would be in McClymont, and then their plans for a mountain biking park near Mount Oldfield, they would be able to utilize the existing Civic Center for parking or access, and then ride along the Cloudberry Trail to access that without actually having to either ride on the highway or drive and park on the highway. So it's, again, a way to create that mobility and utilize and enhance existing assets that the city has. And then here are just some typical details for what that trail could look like. So it would be a 3-meter wide bi-directional pathway, so people moving in both directions, safe for cyclists, safe for walkers, able to get around, kind of like your Stanley Park or Galloping Goose or Lochside trails in those other major communities, or even similar to the Millennium Walkway and Terrace that follows the highway. So really why I'm here is 2 simple asks, hopefully simple. But as Cane Trails, we're a nonprofit society. As much as we love to, and maintaining Rushbrook and doing this work, we can't do it alone. And so, like I said, we rely on the support of others, including the city. And this is where we need your support. So the first ask that the society has is your permission to essentially submit the plans and the design for this first phase of Cloudberry to MOTI, sort of on behalf of the city. So the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure won't permit or allow nonprofits to build in their right-of-way. They will only allow municipalities or regional districts. So we need your support here. And so with this project, we are having engineers work on it, design it. It will all be built to sort of the correct standard, and we've been working sort of in partnership with the city, but not at that sort of official level yet. So now we need sort of that support from council to allow staff to work and allow Cane Trails to submit that application. The other ask is just for the other portion of the work that we're doing with the $600,000 for the design and permitting for the remainder. So this section won't get built right away, but the reason why we can do that design is to help de-risk the project. So once we have those designs and permits in place and the costs, we can then go back and ask for more grants, get more support from industry, and sort of help that project move forward. And again, the request is just to allow staff to work with Cane Trails, and if we need to submit applications in the city's name, to be able to do that and help keep the process moving forward. So just a couple things to wrap up here, because I wanted to keep it short, and I know Rosa said I had 5 minutes, and you have a full agenda tonight. So a couple of ways to stay engaged. One, we have our Cane Trailblazer coming up. So this will be the 3rd annual event. It's been a great way to both showcase the newly restored Seal Cove Slough or Salt Marsh and the Rushbrook Trail and some other community trails. in town. So that will be on September 9th. With the start in Silk Cove. And in 2022, we had over 40 participants, and some even came from out of town. So it was an event that drew people to Prince Rupert. And most folks will know Rupert Runners. They love this event because, for one, they don't have to organize it, and two, they love running on trail. So it's just a way for them, to be honest, to reward them in sort of their hard work that they do. And the other thing that I want to highlight that Cane Trails does with the support of one of our directors is the Cane Coastal Rider, or adaptive wheelchair. So trails are not always accessible to everyone. Even Rushbrook is not, it's a walking trail, it's not bike accessible, and there's some steep sections in there. But this trail rider allows people with unique mobilities to be able to get out and access, with the help of volunteers, these areas. So it's an amazing tool for that. It's an amazing tool. Also, we've made it available as well to ground search and rescue in the event that someone gets injured. So it allows us, when we start building out these trails, to know that we can get people safely off of them, because the last thing we want is someone to feel unsafe, or someone who does get injured to have to sort of struggle their way out. So with that, if you have any questions, and I see we have a great gallery here of folks who are likely going to petition the city about another trail in town. So I appreciate all their support this evening for coming and showing up to our presentation on trails and multi-use pathways. So
I appreciate anybody that's opportunistic and takes advantage of what's questions, comments from council. Councillor Adey.
Thanks for the presentation. It's pretty exciting to see more and more of our localities open up for people who want to walk. And I've come to an age where I think accessibility has a lot to do with the grade of the trail. So what I'm gathering then is that the plan for this trail is that it's going to maintain a relatively even elevation.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in the BC Active Transportation Guideline that was, I believe, developed in 2020 or 2019, they prescribe, or they provide sort of recommended grades. And so I think the max they suggest is 5%. That allows people of different mobilities to safely or to access long-term those types of facilities. So that's what Cloudberry would be designed to. There's obviously certain sections that wouldn't necessarily meet that, and then those sections we would sort of incorporate things like rest areas, viewpoints, or different things to provide that break so that you could go and then go for the summit sort of after a short pause.
Councillor Naish.
Just curious as when you would like to break ground on this trail.
Yeah, so with Cloudberry Part 1, we've engaged the contractor consultant team. They're working on the design, so if we get approval tonight, we would essentially be in sort of full speed ahead to get those permits in place, and then if MOTI was able to turn those around through the summer, then we'd be looking to break ground in September, because our deadline to spend $1 million is March 2024. So we have to have this complete for phase 1 by March 2024.
Any other questions? Councillor Skelton Morven.
I just wanted to thank you for the presentation, and I would like to see this much public engagement from most topics on council, because I think this is probably, in my 5 years, this has probably been the fullest council chambers has ever been. So just thank you for that, and a small but mighty bunch and coming in and very passionate. So, and also these are all the hikers, so that are willing to come and make the walk down to City Hall and trudge up our 3 flights of stairs. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think most of these folks here, though, were for a separate petition, but as Herb said, or as his worship said, I just took the opportunistic view of having them all in the room. So I appreciate, again, all of your support.
Yeah, there you go. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just really quickly, I wasn't actually aware that we had adaptive riding capabilities here in town. Is the phone number that I saw quickly in your PowerPoint, is that posted somewhere that I can direct people to?
We're just in the process of updating our website. So we're going to create a contact page for the trail rider. We're just working on some insurance things. And just a plug on that, I appreciate Rosa and Corinne's effort working with us last year to help sort of Cane Trails come under the umbrella of the city's insurance, where we pay the premium, but it has reduced the cost of our insurance for Rushbrook significantly. So right now we've just been working through, the society's been working through some insurance things to make sure that we have the right coverage for volunteers and users of the Trail Rider. But once we have that in place, we'll make sure that the contact info for that piece of equipment is posted.
Excellent. Councillor Cunningham.
Thanks for the presentation, but more than that, thanks for all the volunteer work you put in. Like, it's nice to, in this day and age with most volunteers with gray hair, see young people stepping up to the plate and doing it. I love it. And, I've walked some of the trails, believe it or not. Car wouldn't fit on them, so I had to walk them. But, Rushbrook's fantastic. And it's just adding another page in the quality of life in Prince Rupert. It's also make it attractive. I've seen down in Rushbrook, believe it or not, people coming off the cruise ships and actually walking all the way out and back again. And that it's something that's just added another dimension to Prince Rupert. The one question when you say hard surface trail for Cloudberry, with our weather and some of the slopes that's going to be on that trail, how's that going to hold up to our little bit of rain now and then?
Mr. Carlson.
So drainage is probably the biggest thing with that, just making sure that we get water going to places it should and not places it shouldn't. So that's going to be the biggest thing. And that's why we hire people that are smarter than me to make sure that happens and go through that process. But it is a good point. And if you've been in sort of that back area, you can even see where there's no trails, how sort of the ground moves and the earth slides. So, but to be honest, to your point about the volunteer piece, we did an event earlier this year, or I guess last year, and we rented an excavator and a power wheelbarrow. And that was some great fun to drive a power wheelbarrow on Rushbrook. So if any of you are bored and you don't want to actually really lift a finger, it's a lot of fun. So,
Dr. Buchan, can we do whatever we need to get Dr. Buchan back? I know he's there. Oh, there he is. Can we make him? Anyway, if council considers this evening, have you got any concerns from the staff side? Do you want to, 2 weeks to come back with a report? How would you, from the staff side, how do you want this managed?
Your Worship, we have been working with Cane Trails for a long time. The project is well known and well supported by the city. I would recommend at this time that council as committee recommend that council in open agenda adopt both requested resolutions. Then they can be brought forward to the open agenda.
Great. Can I have a motion to that effect, Councillor Skelton Morven, Councillor Cunningham? Any further discussion? Okay, so just for clarity, this isn't passing it. This is passing it to pass it on to the regular meeting where we have the authority to do that. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Any last comments or concerns, Dr. Buchan?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you for the time and to allow us to present.
Yeah, great. So with that, I'd call for a motion to adjourn the regular or the committee of the whole. Councillor, I'm going to look this way this time. Councillors Forrester, Councillors Rondawa. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We will now call the regular council meeting of May the 8th to order. There are open seats here for those of you that are standing in the background. You're welcome to stay standing, but there's seats here in the front and seats over there. With that, I'm going to introduce the late item, which is from the Committee of the Whole, and we will put that on the agenda. How about if we put that, should we put it under reports? My notes are all mixed up here. As item HIJ. All right. Okay. All right. With that, you have an agenda then that's been modified. Can I have a motion to adopt that agenda? Councilors Adi, Randawa, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Now's the time you've all been waiting for. The rules under this piece are a little bit different from what you witnessed, where there's a presentation to council in a committee of the whole. This is an opportunity for members of the public to come forward and make comment on anything that's in the agenda. So anything that's coming up in the agenda, and I know that most of you or many of you are here certainly to speak to the petition, which is in the agenda. So you're able to do that. This won't be a time though for council to ask questions or to make comment. This is an opportunity for you to just comment on what's coming up. So with that, I invite any member of the public who would like to come forward and speak to council at this time on anything that's on the agenda. Wonderful. So now there, you need to turn on the microphone by pushing the button. Yeah. And would you introduce the two of you, mostly so that people at home who don't have such a good view of who you are?
Thank you, Mayor Herb and councilors. This is my partner in crime, Sandy Jones. I'm John Patterson. I'm here on behalf of the petition that we filed last week or the week before, and to comment on that FMA.
Absolutely.
Okay. January 30th, a tree fell down. It was heavy, wet snow, high winds, and it blocked the pathway and broke the railing. It's almost 4 months. Nothing has happened. There are 100 people that use that walkway every day from 4th, 5th, 6th, and beyond, the library, the apartments, and so on. I've noticed that from people that have sent in information about our Prince Rupert Community Plan, it says we want to improve accessibility to the city. Well, there's no access. As far as the cost, in my humble opinion, Public Works has a couple of chainsaws, and the additional cost would be the railings, which would be minimal. And with a city budget of, what is it, 30 million, 50 million? If we can't find $10,000 or $20,000 to fix that pathway, we're in trouble. Also, my daughter works at the mall. She used to walk, now she drives. I got a call tonight from Leila Peterson, who's blind. She knows the number of steps to go down, to go to the eye doctor, the health center, shopping, Safeway, and so on. She can't anymore. She's got to be driven. What I'd like to suggest and recommend is that somebody take the bull by the horns and advise Public Works to put it #1 priority to get that fixed. Not in 3 months, not in 6 months. The original sign said permanently closed. Then they changed it temporary closed. You know what? It means the same damn thing. Same thing. So we want some action. Our council members we're promoting, the K&I Island Trailers are promoting walking in this community. We can't walk. We can't go downtown. We're blocked. It's unacceptable. If a geotechnical survey needs to be done, so be it. That hill hasn't moved in 100 years. That's the last big tree to fall down. There's no more to fall down. It was right on the edge of the bank and it fell down. So, in my opinion, I request the mayor and the councilors to look into it and act on it as soon as possible, because even the cruise ship passengers, when they walked around 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, would take a shortcut downtown. They can't. And neither can we. I would have walked to this meeting. Guess what? I drove. I drove tonight. You know, all that pollution, all that great parking place on 3rd Avenue. There's none. There's none. You know, come on. And you guys are, you know, I mean, like, anyways, that's my recommendation. I appreciate all you've done and you're listening, but something's got to be done, and it's got to be done reasonably soon. Sandy, do you want to say a few words?
I don't really have more to add to John's impassioned plea. I was only going to mention that it is in your own community plan that we have walkability, and so it's a bit of a joke. In fact, the picture on your own page is of that very stairwell, which is now, I don't know, closed permanently, not closed permanently. Perhaps if you'd put the money from the closed permanently sign and the closed not permanently sign into just getting the tree gone and fixing the railing, we'd all be happier. And I have to say, I don't think it's 100 people. I think it's very many more than that that use that trail. There are many people who wander from all over our neighborhoods and go through that area. So, as John has made very strong recommendation, we would love to see that fixed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, they
No,
go out.
not a question time, but thank you. Is there anybody else in the gallery that would like to come and address council?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Musgrave. I also live on 4th Avenue West for 6.5 years now. And everything that John had to say is real. I think I just have a different approach, maybe not living in the neighborhood as long as some of the others. But the amount of people that access that trail from an observing point of view is not the immediate people, like you say, in the 4th, 5th area. It is vast, the amount of people, especially those are walking to work, and more importantly, walking to the grocery stores. And so, it's interesting to see that. And then with our cruise ship, which this year the passengers are doubling from whatever it is, 40,000 to 80,000, the first thing they see when they look up from that ship is our church on the corner. And they're all interested in it. And the amount of people that come through there and through our yard to see the church is phenomenal. But then it's a matter of, how many are no longer having access to that. The city, in the time that I've been there, I think part of the issue is lack of maintenance. I don't think I've ever seen that thing power washed. I know there was a contractor did some work probably about 3-4 years ago for the city, and did put some new steps and stuff in, which was great to see. But the big thing is that as a city, you've got responsibilities for the whole city. You've got responsibilities of liabilities and that's there. The reality is that we are in a unique spot, especially from, like I say, the grocery stores and the cruise ships and the amount of people coming through. I let John say it should be a priority. We know there's other walkways that have issues, okay, but if we can have somebody drive around on a Sunday to pick up garbage, we can get somebody to start cleaning our walkways and increase that accessibility that's there. And if people are going to walk it anyway, because I think everybody knows that people are walking past the signs, then get something approved by your lawyer saying walk at your own risk. But get it cleaned up, maintain it, increase that accessibility for the people, and make it a priority versus some of the other areas that don't have the same foot traffic coming through. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come and address council on any matter that's on the agenda? Good evening.
I didn't get a copy of the agenda, but I believe the matter of approving the application for
It's on the agenda for to be deferred, but it's still on the agenda.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. My name is Barbara Cool. I'm a resident of Prince Rupert, and I want to also respectfully acknowledge that I'm here as a guest on the unceded territory of the Coast Tsimshian Nations, the 9 allied tribes. Very grateful for their stewardship of this land in the past and ongoing, and also just for the many ways that I've benefited from my time here, and of all they share the gifts of the food and friendship in so many ways. My purpose in being here today is to speak in opposition to the endorsement of a lounge license for 801 Fraser Street, which is being requested by Port City Spirits. I'm not opposed to the business plan, but I am opposed to the location. It's in the wrong location. And it's a stone's throw away from the Friendship House, where there are competing agendas. There's with having alcoholic establishment. The Salvation Army is just down the street, and also the North Coast Community Services is on there on the same block. I just believe that a liquor establishment serving alcohol and food, which is what's being requested now, is incompatible with the above. So the purpose of a distillery, with the license that was granted just exactly a year ago, May 30th, is for the manufacture of spirits. Now, a year later, the Port City Spirits is asking for approval for 35-seat lounge, which would serve food and alcohol, different kinds of alcohol. It seems to me, well, and they said they've already spent money in preparing to do that. So it seems to me like it's a kind of the colonialism way of act now and ask later. The purpose of the Friendship House, on the other hand, is different. It was established in 1958, which is more than 60 years ago. It started out as a men's hostel and children's milk program, and it's evolved through the years. Lots of different iterations. Today's website talks about the different services. I know they have a preschool, they have a daycare that's off-site, they have the parents and tots, Aboriginal women's programs, alcohol and drug counseling, infant development, supported child development. They have the bus transportation now to Terrace, and different family skills. Their programs are in the days and the evenings, so it isn't just that they're only there during the day. And there is a focus on providing services to Aboriginal peoples. The PRPA supported the Friendship House with a grant of $125,000 this last year. So they're acknowledging the importance, I believe, of the Friendship House. Sean Stevenson, the president and CEO, said he hopes that they are committed to supporting it so that it can remain a pillar of the community for generations to come. And I totally agree with that. City of Prince Rupert also supports the Friendship House with the $20,000 a year tax exemption. So myself, why do I support it? Well, I'm concerned, and why am I concerned about this proximity of a liquor establishment? And what do I know about it? I attended an art class there with Russell Mather, who's done this work for the city. So this is what I did with Russell. That's my product. That was in the evening, a class many years ago, but over a period of weeks. So I've also, my son also attended there, did a carving class, and that was an important thing in his life at that time when he was going through a rough patch, and it was really just like therapeutic for him, just doing an artistic thing. As a professional, I worked there for 10 years, being in the preschool quite often, working with the other people there that work with children, and also just consulting once in a while with other programs there, so for my own awareness and so that I could refer other people, like with the drug and alcohol counseling, men's counseling. So likewise, I also did work down the street with what was then the Community Enrichment Society. Now it's the North Coast Services Society. They offered lots of programs for children and families. And we're all acquainted with the Salvation Army and what they're well known for, the soup kitchen that's there every day. And also the food bank is now located right there in those premises. You might not have used these services yourself and you don't see what the problem is. I know today I asked my nephew, I said, what do you think? It just seems like it would be a stumbling block to me for some people. He was so strong in his response. He says, it will be a stumbling block. He's someone who's well acquainted, and so am I, with the heartbreak that so many families experience in this community, and of course elsewhere. But based upon on alcoholism and the misuse of alcohol. So I'm just going to leave that part there and speak to what I, in my little bit of research, see about the city's policy on reconciliation that they adopted last October. So I see that they're having the acknowledgement of the territory at the beginning of meetings, which is great, and different things, looking at art and signage and polls around town, employment equity, and so forth. And the one on relationship building, it seemed to me that the city was focusing there on relationships, building relationships between the city and the communities, the outlying governments. And I just think with 33% of the population of Prince Rupert being First Nations, Indigenous peoples of North America, according to the census, I just think, there's a lot to do right here with all the people of the various nations we know there. And there's Haida, there's Gitxsan, Gitgat, Metlakatla, and Gitgatla, and of course others. So what about working with them here, just making sure that the programs are supporting?
I don't want to cut you off, but I need to encourage you to wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not able to. I don't have the time to speak about the EDI, which talks about the preparedness of school children here. But I just would like to say that for our school district, we are performing in the last 2 or 3 of the whole province as far as school readiness for children, and that's documented in, it's the academic. It's run by the medical faculty of UBC, and then the other is the Canada's guidance on alcohol and health that just came out, and I've heard on the news recently too, talking about the impact of alcohol and some of the new research that caused them to do this new study. So it is now recognized as a factor in 7 different types of cancer, and more to learn about that. But anyway, I know you have a really major decision here, Mayor and councillors. And on one side, it's the expectation of 4 very capable and talented entrepreneurs who want to have a business. And on the other hand, it's the population in that area that already established businesses or institutions that are servicing needs. And it's just on the other side to me. I think your duty, your responsibility is to consider all the people in Prince Rupert and weigh it. And I know it's a real heavy task, but I just think, there are very many who are struggling, and I do think that having a alcohol and food establishment opening up right there is going to be a stumbling block. And I just would like for you to ask yourself, would you permit that to be next to a school? Any school in Prince Rupert? And that is a school, and so much more. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. And beautiful artwork. Is there anyone else that would like to come and address council at this time on any matter that's on the agenda? Come on forward.
Hello, my name is Terry Salka. resident, longtime resident. I wasn't aware that the Fraser Street Distillery was going to be on the agenda, but I guess it is on the agenda and it's been deferred to June the 12th or something.
Correct.
The concerns I have, the previous speaker addressed quite a bit about it, and there were some discussions at the last council meeting when I spoke against this, and one of the things was that councilman noted that this would be an idea where tourist ships or tourist people would have a new experience. Well, getting drunk is not a new experience in my book. You want to get drunk, you can go anywhere and get drunk. My concern here is that the hours of operation initially a year ago were not noted. It was just going to be a distillery. And I've kind of researched, and there's some distilleries around the province, not that many, but there is some, and they have a tasting lounge or tasting bar. But these proponents sat on this now for a year, and now they're reapplying, looking for a lounge license. Well, a lounge license and a tasting bar are two different things. One, the hours of operations were going to be from 10 o'clock in the morning till I think 11 o'clock at night, and then on the weekends from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning. That's like a bar. During the week, we've got kids there. There's two, there's the Friendship House, and there next door there's another child care facility. And the biggest thing of all is there's no parking. And I know council has on the agenda, I think it's been tabled, a motion to change the parking requirements. And I have a concern that these people may be sitting back and waiting so that problem goes away. Because unless you have parking, you cannot get an occupancy permit. Is that correct?
It's not really a question and answer time, but
no, but I understand that
parking is a requirement.
That's how it works. The second part is the rules are established by the Liquor Control Board, and they've been there for years and years and years. And they're not just strictly policy; those are the rules. When you apply for a liquor license, you follow their rules. You have to give them information, and they in turn refer you to the city of Prince Rupert or Terrace or Kitimat, whoever. Then the city makes the decision, yes or no. If the city says yes, the letter goes off to Victoria and they rubber stamp it. If the city says no, the letter goes off to Victoria and they rubber stamp it. But if you really look at it, the decisions are made by the council, by the municipal government. Otherwise, you would have complete chaos. You could have a guy applying for a liquor license in my cul-de-sac. If as it was suggested last time, that it should be Victoria's job. Well, Victoria doesn't know the difference between First Avenue and Graham Avenue. And the last thing I would want is some guy in Victoria deciding for me where I can open up a liquor license in my cul-de-sac. But I'm totally against this. If they want to have a distillery, I don't have any problem with that. But I have a problem with off sales, and I have a problem with it run like a lounge or a bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to come forward and speak to council on any matter on the agenda? I'll ask one more time. Last chance. All right. Thank you all very much for coming. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, and you won't hurt our feelings if you leave. So it's entirely up to you.
Speak for yourself, Mr. Mayor. I might be.
All right, we move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, there are the minutes, there's correspondence. I'll just highlight the correspondence. There's the 4th Avenue West petition. There's the letter of support from Prince Rupert Aboriginal Community Services with regards to the Aboriginal Head Start. I'm going to ask you to, gallery, to be quiet, please, just while we continue the meeting. Thank you. A letter from Assistant Deputy Minister McLaren with regards to cryptocurrency mining in BC. There's an announcement from the North Coast Regional District with regards to the settlement of the QP collective agreement. And finally, there's a letter from Chris Fairclough, Director, Social Purpose Community Stakeholder Engagement. With that, I'd ask for a motion to, Councillor Forster, that's a motion, and a seconder, Councillor Randawa. Now, any items you want to highlight? Councillor Forster.
Thank you. I actually want to bring everyone's attention to the request for a letter of support from the Prince Rupert Aboriginal Community Services Society. Just a query: would I make a motion at this point for us to do that, or is it? What would be the best protocol for that?
I think if we if we accept the correspondence with the understanding that the letter of support will go ahead, then that's all that's required. Thank you, Councillor Adey.
In light of the well-attended public gallery and the issue that brought many of them here, I think that there's a couple of things that probably are warranted. I think that we should move the petition item into the regular agenda so that we can have a conversation about it.
Right.
And I think that the potential outcome of that conversation might be a motion that would become part of our next meeting.
So the motion is to pull the petition from the consent agenda. Seconder Cunningham. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. So now back to the consent agenda minus the 4th Avenue petition. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. We will now deal with the 4th Avenue West petition. Councillor Adey, have you got a motion?
Well, a couple of things to say first, and of course I'm interested in what other councillors have to say as well, but clearly this is a subject of great interest. A significant number of people have taken the time to come and see us. A significant number of people have signed a petition. So I think we need to acknowledge that. And I also know that it has been raised in previous meetings, and the standing circumstance is that as we speak, it's something that is not budgeted for. There's issues around budgeting for resolving this problem. So I think that where we need to go with this is to ask staff to consider how we might develop a proposal that will work in terms of getting this problem solved without necessarily compromising too much in terms of other things that we may have to deal with.
So I see a motion forming. I see Dr. Buchan's. Go ahead, Dr. Buchan.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I would like to lend my support on the idea that the matter be referred to staff for a report on, outlining the issues and potential costs and process and budget implications for opening the stairway sooner than later.
All right. Can I have a motion to refer to staff? Councillor Adey, Councillor Forster. Any further discussion? Councillor Adey.
Can I just request that report, if it's possible to do it fast enough, can it come back to the next meeting?
Dr. Buchan, is next meeting practical?
Your Worship, I would need to discuss that with the Director of Operations and Governmental Relations. I think that we hear the urgency. We'll have it back as soon as we can, but I can't commit to that. The full assessment will be able to be done in time for the next meeting. We will try.
Okay. Can we have the motion without? I don't want to set staff up to fail. So to get the report back to council as soon as possible. All right, that's acceptable. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. We now have a number of development variance permits. I'm going to move through them fairly quickly so you can stop me if you have a concern. First one is from the Director of Development Services with regards to DVP 2303. It's at 1215 Amanika, and I'm going to change the recommendation to that council approve. That's okay, just for the public's sake, it says consider approval, but I'd like a motion to approve, and then you can defeat it or discuss it or whatever you want. A motion to approve the development variance permit at 1215 Amanika. Councillor Randawa, Councillor Cunningham, any discussion? Councillor Adey.
I just noted in the report that there was some thought that the light to the neighbor's yard might be affected. I'm just wondering if we got any feedback.
Councillor Adey, I'm going to encourage you to direct the question to me, and then I'll.
Through the mayor, looking to see if we got any feedback on this proposal from the public.
Excellent. Director Miller, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's so hard when you're sitting side by side. I know it really is. I know it is.
We look alike.
Yeah.
We have not received any feedback in the positive or the negative about this application.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Cunningham.
Right on the corner of this driveway is a BC Hydro box. One of the, for that area that's underground wiring. And I don't know how maybe planning is aware of that.
That did not come up during the referrals process or during the review, no.
It's just when I looked at it today, I realized that the carport's going to come awfully close to that. So yeah. I don't know if Hydro has to look at it or anything, but it's just something that I think we should be noting.
Is there a...
just
go ahead, Manager.
Say, during they will still need to receive a building permit. So during that stage, that's maybe something that we can confirm. Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Recommendation number 2, or B rather, DVP 2305. Recommendation that council approve DVP 2305 at 1337 Piggott Avenue. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton Morvan, Councillor Naish. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report with regards to development variance permit 2307 with a recommendation that council approve DVP 2307 for 1300 Hayes Cove Avenue. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Naish, Councillor Randawa. Any discussion? Councillor Adey.
This one is a little bigger than in terms of its scale than some of the other ones we deal with. So same question through the mayor. Did we get any public response in opposition or in favor to this one?
Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have not received any comments about this DVP.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunningham.
On this particular project, I noticed that in the diagram, you're going to be extending 10th Avenue extension as the driveway or roadway in there. Well, 10th Avenue East right now is very narrow. It's extremely narrow. And on the left-hand side, when you're driving down it, it's a cliff right into Conrad School. My concern with this project is the increased traffic going in that road, because I drove it today and had to actually wait for somebody to drive the other way before I could drive all the way in. Also, when I was looking at the diagram, there's a couple of other avenues where we could put an access road either going out to 11th or down to Hayes Cove towards Frederick, and I think we should actually look at that, because if you've got to build up 10th Avenue to make it two-way with parking along the right-hand side, because a lot of those houses don't have off-road access, you're going to have to build up that road probably 10-15 feet out, and it's going to be astronomical, the cost from Conrad in. So it's something, I don't know if we've looked at or not, but it's definitely something we should be looking at, because I can't see that road taking any traffic, especially construction, heavy cement trucks and things like this. You know, it's going to be damaging to the existing road to begin with if it's not built up beforehand, and that could hold up construction considerably.
Dr. Buchan, have you got any comment?
Your Worship, it's a interesting and good point that's been made. I'm wondering if I can refer through to the Director of Development Services as to any comments received from Public Works on this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the mayor. So that was the access on 10th has been flagged, both for also for fire trucks. I do want to emphasize that this variance is for the design of the height of the building and the parking reduction. And when we move to a development permit stage, that's when we'll be confirming access and another landscaping things about the development itself. So it's at that point that we would be exploring those issues.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. We have several recommendations to proceed to statutory notification. First one is DVP 2306, a recommendation that council proceed with statutory notification process for the development variance permit 2306 for 212 9th Avenue East. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed or carried? We have a report from Director of Development Services with regards to DVP 2309 that council proceed with the statutory notification process for development variance permit 2309 for 1129 11th Avenue East. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Forster, Councillor Randawa. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. We have a report from the Director of Development Services regarding DVP 2310 that council proceed with the statutory notification process for development variance permit 2310 for 945 Hayes Cove Avenue. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton Morven, Councillor Nish. Any discussion? Councillor Cunningham.
This is another interesting variance because it's already built.
Is there a comment from staff? Is Councillor Cunningham, I believe you drove by today and you saw.
Yeah, no, I drove by it today. I checked all the variances today. The roof is already built. The stairs aren't built. Now, is there a stop order on this project?
Director Pope.
Through the mayor, there is, so the applicant received a variance to renovate their house last year, and part of the building plan, they ended up building this roof, which wasn't in the original building plans. There was an order to stop the work until they received a variance to accommodate that.
So there is a stop order pending variance.
Build it and then ask for forgiveness.
Well, a stop order is a pretty good wake-up call, I would say. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have two reports with regards to zoning bylaws that are upcoming. So we'll deal with the reports and then the bylaws will follow. We have a report from the Director of Development Services, Manager of Communications, Engagement, and Social Development regarding zoning amendment bylaw number. The bylaw permitting childcare in public facilities. And I think that the recommendation in the report is just to receive the report with regards to the bylaw. Is there any questions that council has with regards to the report? Councillor Skelton.
Just for the public's context, just so because this is just an item agenda with a number and a letter, could we elaborate a little bit more on what it is we're discussing regarding the childcare facilities?
Who's going to do that? Just a quick elaboration on the purpose of the bylaw change.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So the purpose of this bylaw is to permit childcare centers in public facility zones. Currently, they're not permitted in those zones, and as well to add childcare facilities as a permitted use in multifamily residential zones. This was a recommendation in the Childcare Action Plan, which was developed in 2019. And there was an opportunity to bring this forward based on the childcare center letter of support brought forward from, I think, the North Coast Community Services.
Councillor Cunningham.
We need childcare. We need it in a big way. My only concern with this is opening up all residential areas to childcare, especially if it's what some people are talking about 24-hour childcare centers. And by opening up residential areas, R2, R3, are we still going to be able to have the neighbors have a say in their neighborhood, whether they want a child care next door to their house or not? Or with this change to zoning, it just carte blanche?
I'm sure you're directing that question to me. Manager Pope.
So currently, childcare centers are permitted in the form of home daycares, which I believe, like, the childcare licensing has to be obtained from the province. I'm not sure. Maybe I can defer to the manager of communications and social development if she knows whether that there's a referral process in order to get that licensing, because that may be where they have the opportunity to provide input.
I'm not actually certain. I believe that essentially under the Child Care Act, that the province attempts to essentially be very permissive in the way that they dole out daycare licenses. So I'm not actually sure if there's an additional consultation process. However, that being said, as part of the zoning bylaw amendment, folks could still come forward and make their opinions about potentially having childcare facilities in RM, the multifamily residential zones, known through that process.
Councillor Nish.
I think reality is that most childcare centers are already in residential areas as it is, and I would think that most are going to be small numbers of people. So I don't anticipate this being a big impact to most neighborhoods. And if it is, it's for a couple minutes dropping off in the morning and a couple minutes dropping or picking up at the end of the day. So I wouldn't anticipate a child care center where there's 50 or 60 kids or something, where it's huge in a residential area. So I mean, I have no issue with this.
Councillor Skelton Morgan. Thank you. So move receipt of the report is what we're at this point in time. Thank you, Councillor Skelton Morgan. Is there a seconder, Councillor Cunningham? Are you seconding? Yeah.
My only concern is exactly what Councillor Nice said. Because we're zoning it, we're not putting a limit on the number of children they can have. So, you could take a house, buy it, turn it into a child care center, and not even live there.
Possible.
That's my concern.
Possible, and in fact, I've seen that done in many communities. But Councillor Adie.
I think the provincial regulations provide for limits on the numbers.
Yeah, tied to the number of staff and that sort of stuff. All right, Councillor Nish.
I'll just add to that. There is actually one in town already like that, where it's the Aboriginal Head Start program, which is been in for many years, and actually both my children attended that daycare when they were little, and it's a great program in a residential neighborhood with really zero impact, other than, like I say, those drop off and pickups maybe a little bit more impactful, but other than that, I think it's probably well received by the neighborhood.
On that note, it is well received and well run and well managed, the Head Start program, and we'll be talking about it later in here too. So yeah, I've got no problem with it. I just wanted to make sure that we were.
Yep, very good. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We then have a report from the Director of Development Services with regards to zoning amendment bylaw number, for the proposed 4-unit, 5-story multi-family building at 9th Avenue West. Can I have a motion to receive the report? Councillor Randawa, Councillor Adey, any discussion? Councillor Skelton Morgan.
Just kind of the same routine for this one, just so folks at home know what this is in particular, because I think there were some pieces around that made it sound like it was a 40-unit versus a 4-unit. Just so if we can elaborate on that.
Actually, it is a 40-unit.
Yeah, I think there's a typo on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Who's going to speak to this? Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Oh. I'll just speak louder so it comes through. Through the mayor. So this is a rezoning application to rezone several lots from an R2 single family and duplex zoning to an RM5 multifamily residential. And this zoning would be to allow a 5-story, 40-unit multifamily building. There would be text-specific amendments for this property, which would limit the height to 21 meters. Usually in a RM5 zone, it can go up to 36 meters, but that wouldn't be permitted in this zone. And so those are the specifics of the request for rezoning at this property. Yeah.
Councillor Skelton Morgan.
And just for context sake, because I think the correspondence that went out, there was lots and numbers, but do we have an approximate, even an address or something like that? Just for folks to reference, because I'm not sure if it's in the correspondence for the application.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor. We do not have a temporary address at this time, but it is on the corner of 9th Avenue and Lisa Walters Drive.
Right by the entrance to the golf course.
That's right.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Councillor Skelton Morgan.
No, I'll just move it. Yeah.
Unless we have moved a seconder already.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Councillor Cunningham. Oh, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. And finally, we have a report from the corporate administrator that council resolves to further postpone the review of the liquor license amendment to enable a lounge area endorsement for 801 Fraser Street to the June 12th, 2023 meeting. Can I have Councillor Skelton Morgan? Is there a seconder? Councillor Adey. Any discussion? Councillor Skelton Morgan.
Yeah, and just to clarify for folks at home, just that this is to further postpone. This hasn't been passed, because I think there was a lot of concern that it was being passed this evening.
Correct.
For folks at home watching that weren't in council chambers.
Correct. At the request of the proponents, we are delaying for another till the next meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have bylaws. City
Excuse
of...
me, Mr. Mayor, you've
Yes.
missed the late agenda item of the committee.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That's why you're paid, to look after me. Item number J is a motion to support. Have you got some kind of motion? Why don't you read us a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That council directs staff to work with Kane Trails to submit the plans and designs to MODI, which is the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, for approval, and that council directs staff to draft an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, for the ability to engage with staff for design and permitting for future phases of the trail network.
Perfect. Can I have a mover to that? Councillor Randawa, seconded Councillor Adey. Any discussion? Councillor Skelton Morgan?
Sorry, no discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Preemptively putting my hand up and voting.
All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to zoning bylaw, City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3506, with the recommendation that council give first and second reading to the City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw 3506 to permit childcare facilities in all public facility zone, and that council waive the public hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment 3506-2023.
I'll move that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Skelton Morgan, Councillor Forrester, any discussion?
Yeah.
Councillor Skelton Morgan.
Yeah, I just think this piece is extremely important, given the nature and the constraints that we have on childcare in the town as well, but also that there are various partners in the community that are putting forward cohorts of early child educators, as well as Indigenous early child educators as well. So for us to be able to kind of remove those barriers and be able to create the opportunities, I think is really critical for us as a community. So thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have the City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3507 that council give first and second reading to the City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3507 and that council proceed to public hearing. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Niche, Councillor Skelton Morven, any discussion?
Just for folks at home, for context sake, just to elaborate on what this particular zoning amendment bylaw is regarding.
Right. So again, 40 unit development on what is currently public land to be rezoned to allow for the 40 units with a height restriction of 21 meters. Councillor 80.
I'm just curious about process in light of other things going on just in that particular location. You've got a golf course, you've got a parking lot there, you have the middle school, and you also have, as I understand it, patiently waiting for a new middle school at some point, which I think was intended to be in that location as well. So I'm just wondering whether there's a need to be aware of a number of different threads that might enter into this this particular development.
Director Pope, are you aware of any conflict with the school district with regards to the public land? Or I can go to Dr. Buchan if you prefer. Dr. Buchan.
Thank you, Your Worship. The staff are aware of the other interests in the area, the potential new school and the access to the golf course. And we've been working across departments to make this as seamless as possible and address the issues. And staff, if they haven't already, will be reaching out to the school district about access and access implications.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, it's moved and seconded.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, just to speak to just the fact of the need of housing in Prince Rupert. So and 40 and as well as many of the other developments continue to be a drop in the bucket, but it all helps and makes a difference. With the anticipated need being 3,000 just to keep up with the projected growth, I'd say ideally more towards 5,000 to keep up with the demand that we have right now. So again, I'm just in favor of this. Appreciate it.
Councillor Cunningham.
What type of housing is this? Market housing?
Dr. Buchan.
Market housing, yes. We don't know if it's going to be sold or rented out. That's something that the proponent may speak to during the public hearing. But I would say that staff have been working on this project, and we're pleased to see this brought to this point for council's consideration.
And
Councillor Cunningham.
Ken, through the mayor. Look, I said it.
you know what? So let's get this out. You don't actually have to say through the mayor, right? Let's do a little procedure thing just for a second, right? Think about Parliament. People just talk directly to the Speaker of the House. They don't say through you, Mr. Speaker. They just say Mr. Speaker, right? And so the protocol is, and I know this gets confused at every council table all over the province, but you just talk directly to the mayor, and then the mayor does whatever the mayor needs to do. But thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham.
God, good thing I don't have dementia. I would have forgot what I was going to say. Okay, do we know who the developer is, or can we proceed with that name, or is that still in development, or what?
Well, we know who the developer is, but Dr. Buchan, I don't know if that's public information or not.
We do know who the developer is. His name is Mr. Brown. He may have partners, and this person has been very good to work with, I would say, we're hoping that this is a successful project, so he does more projects in Prince Rupert.
Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, is there going to be a reverter clause on any of these sales of city land, that if nothing's happened within 2 years, it's returned to us?
Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, we continue to require reverter clauses.
There you go. Any further questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. All right. We now move on to Council Roundtable. Any issues, items you want to raise? Councillor Cunningham.
Well, first of all, I'd like to bring to, because it's going to happen before the next council meeting, the 9th annual Salmon Festival.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I believe, this Friday at the Jim Ciccone Civic Center. It's been well attended, and it's quite an interesting function to go to. Secondly, I've got a few things here.
Go ahead.
Bear with me. Secondly, this weekend I attended a soccer, slow pitch, just about every type of athletic event you could think of up in Kitwanga. I still can't wrap my name around the new names for the different areas, but the women's Prince Rupert soccer team came first in their division, and they actually had to come through the back door and play 2 games on Sunday and still won, which was almost back to back. A slow pitch team from Prince Rupert called the Amigos won the slow pitch tournament, and the men's soccer team lost their last 2 matches in shootouts by 1 goal, or they would have been in the final, and they lost to the eventual winners by 1 goal, 1 shot in the shootout. So I think Rupert was well represented up there out in the weekend. And as well, the women's soccer team walked away with the best scorer, the best defensive player, and also the best goalie. So, and then I'd like to report a little bit on the NCGLA. I was there a couple days early for Northern Health meetings. The first day was an 8-hour workshop on healthy communities. I can't go into a lot of detail, but it was rather interesting how some of the other communities are looking at pilot projects for care aids through their high schools, Fort St. John, things like that. We did quite a bit of discussion about which way to go. I suggested that our UNBC, if students are coming from down south to take nursing courses or anything like that, they should be required to spend at least 2 or 3 years in the north after they get their degree, because they're taking seats from students up north and that. And Ontario already has something like that in effect. So it would help with the number of nurses graduating actually staying in the north. There was a few other things there, but on to the second day, we had a one-on-one with the CEO of Northern Health and that, and it was basically, my concern was the replacement of our Prince Rupert Regional Hospital. Mills Memorial is number 1. Bulkley Valley, which is Smithers, definitely has to be replaced. It's an old wood frame, and it's in pathetic shape. And I understood for the last 4 years, we're going to be the 3rd replacement hospital. We've now been pushed down to 4th, and Rince out of Hazelton has bumped up to number 3. But in the list of how they actually categorize the hospitals, I think there's still movement for us. There's some definite issues in our hospital that they're trying to address, like water purification and things like this, but it's the pipes in the walls and things like that that are going to be the problem. So even after they put in the water purification system, they're going to have to now test the water again, because the water had lead in it before. You couldn't drink it, and they were flushing the system constantly and things like this. And if that still exists, then that might give us enough points to jump up. Rince was built in 1977, so it's a newer hospital than ours. And my concern is you've got Terrace, Smithers, and Hazelton as new hospitals, and we still have that physical barrier in the winter coming from Prince Rupert if you need services that we don't have. And you just can't get to Terrace in the winter, and people don't want to drive to Terrace in the winter. One of the other aspects was the recruiting for the new Mills Memorial Hospital. And we were told that they were going to recruit from outside Northern Health, but I'll believe that when I see it, because you can't stop a nurse or a doctor from leaving our hospital, going to another hospital. And I don't think Northern Health will discourage anyone from doing that. So it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, and we're still going to have to really push to get our hospital replaced here in the near future.
Thank you. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to build on some of the amazing things that have happened in our community recently. I don't know if everyone's aware, but the Prince Rupert Middle School Band
Yeah.
finally went back east and won in both categories, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that the kids and their families all did significant fundraising, raised a lot of money, and they did a fantastic job demonstrating how great our community is. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a shout out to all of them. The other thing I wanted to add, as many people know, I am a nurse. And what I find a lot of different communities sometimes miss, not our community, but communities outside of ours, because it came up at NCLGA, was people doing a lot of push for recruitment, which alienates the people that are currently here. And so part of how we're going to make sure that people aren't leaving to go to a new hospital is reminding them how great we are as neighbors to each other. And all the benefits to living in our community. Terrace might have a new hospital, but they don't have all of us. And so please thank a nurse or a healthcare worker because we don't need them leaving.
Well said. Councillor 80.
I've just been through a healthcare system, and I can't say it any stronger. The service is fantastic, and I think we're very well served both here and also provincially. Not a perfect system, but it could be a whole lot worse. So I'm very grateful for it. Personally, I also, on the musical note, want to do a brief plug for the Rockstock, the Ring System Music Studios annual late spring show is this Saturday night. The money goes towards the Lester Center, and we're all well aware of how important the Lester Center is to the cultural pulse of Prince Rupert. So it's a good cause, and I can virtually guarantee that the music will be first class. So that's Saturday night.
Excellent. Anything else? Councillor Skelton Morven.
I just wanted to give another plug to our folks hosting this Salmon Fest this year, and unfortunately, I won't be able to get my dancing legs on as I'll be in Toronto with Councillor Forster and some of our team. So try to solve some of our revenue challenges and some other aspects while we're there. So yeah, we hope to come back. Hopefully, this FCM will be 3 for 3, and we come back with some awesome news, as prior to the previous two.
So with that, I'll just point out that the Councillors Forster and Skelton Morven are traveling to FCM in Toronto to represent the city, along with Dr. Buchan, and we appreciate them doing that on our behalf. Several of us attended NCLGA, Councillors Forster, Cunningham, myself, and Dr. Buchan. And having been absent for some time and coming back into local government, one of my purposes was to go and see whether NCLGA is still relevant to what we're doing. And I think others went with the same viewpoint, and I think all of us concluded, well, I know all of us concluded because we had the discussion, that it is worthwhile. There's probably some things we can do to make it even more worthwhile. But I think gathering with similar municipalities, similar size, similar issues, very, very worthwhile. One of the things that overwhelmed us almost was almost to a delegate, they want us to host. We had to beat them off because they actually wanted us to host next year. And there's two drivers that I heard from that. One is they just like coming to Rupert. They want to do the seafood thing and all that sort of stuff. But they also are people from communities whose products are moving through our port, whether that's grain or energy or whatever. And they've heard a great deal about what's going on the ground here. They want to see it firsthand. We said next year's impossible. Would be just too much for our staff to even think about. But that 2025 could be possible. And there's no decision made. That'll obviously be the decision of council. Councillor Cunningham.
That said, I'll be attending a regional or NCGLA directors meeting to represent a region district, and they've already asked me if I would be bringing a letter.
And a word of note, Councillor Cunningham, on behalf of the regional district, sits as a director of NCLGA. And I know that, okay, we do acronyms all the time. Let me unpack that for you. It's the North Central Local Government Association, all right, which is a sub-region of UBCM, or the Union of BC Municipalities. Traveling this week, already mentioned, but oh no, I said that already. You're traveling. I had an opportunity to meet with Premier Eby. Dr. Buchan and I attended a meeting in Victoria. While we were at NCLGA, we got word that we had a meeting, so my travel was rerouted down to Victoria, and this was a follow-up meeting to the meeting that we'd had earlier with the Premier, and so a chance to update him. And I won't go into all the details of that, but suffice to say that it's actually the 7th meeting I've had face-to-face with the Premier since the beginning of the year, and this is all about continuing to pursue long-term sustainable funding that will allow us to do the things we need to do to support the industries that want to make their home here, and to allow this to be a kind of community where people actually want to come and live. And so whether that's as simple as water pipes and new roads, or expanded recreation facilities, it's obviously all, or trails, as we heard this evening. And that was a productive meeting. In that same vein, today, one of the roles I've taken on is, and thanks in large part to Councillor Cunningham's advocacy at the regional district table, is that I'm one of 3 co-chairs representing the Resource Benefit Alliance. And for people at home that may not be aware of it, it's a long, it dates back to 2014. The municipalities of northwestern British Columbia have been trying to get a deal very similar to what the Peace Fair Share deal is, whereby the province recognizes in the Peace area there's a lot of economic activity that occurs outside of municipal boundaries, for which the province makes a lot of money, and yet the municipalities see their roads beat up and their recreational resources used and whatever. And so some time ago, the province entered into an agreement to transfer a portion of the tax revenue that they make off these major projects back to the local municipalities. In the case of Dawson Creek, which is approximately the same size as Prince Rupert, that transfers $12 million this year. And it's every year, year after year. So Dawson Creek can borrow against that, and they can, do things as they move forward. So the RBA has been a long pursuit of this council and the region, and so in advancing that today, the co-chairs had a virtual meeting with Ann Kang, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Nathan Cullen, previous Minister of Municipal Affairs, who's still involved, and Minister of Finance Conroy, with the goal of advancing this project further down the road. There's a lot of staff work being done. I don't want to suggest that it's a done deal. It's not. There's a lot of work to be done, but it is actually advancing. And so I report somewhat optimistically that we're certainly being taken seriously. All right. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to a closed council meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, you need to note, please, why we're adjourning to closed. If you could provide the sections.
I have to read that out. I don't have it in front of me. I'll get it. Here it is. Hang on. I can almost say it by heart. No, that's not it. This is it. No, it's not in my package. Will you just read it out? Have you got it there?
I will have it momentarily for you. So the meeting will be closed to the public with respect to sections 90.1 C of the community charter,
There you
which
go.
is labor relations and employee relations.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'll entertain that motion. Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Niche, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Meeting's